everyone, and a happy new year to you. We are back for part 2 of our episodes with our guests, Pastor Paul and Gail Chamberlain.
Yeah.
Welcome back, guys. We've had a pit stop here.
We've
had half time. We've had our half time. We're back. No subs.
No subs.
No.
They're going to go again.
Get someone in for Sarah. But,
Really?
You can't do that.
I'm joking. So we'll get back into the story just in a sec. I wanted to chat to you, Paul, about... I've not prepped any of us for this, but we're going to have a chat. A couple of weeks ago, at Arise, we launched a new location.
Woo! Stourbridge.
In Stourbridge. And you came and spoke, didn't you?
Yeah.
And you
Wonderful.
You had a bit of fun with the...
I think, I've been total innocent. Total innocent.
And I do believe it was
I
totally
do.
innocent.
Total innocent.
We laughed.
We
Did
were
we laugh?
laughing.
There was a post. And it's not my fault that I had to hold myself up because I'm that old now. I have to hold myself up with something, and I just swung round it. And it's like it wasn't my fault.
Do you know what? I actually, in first instance, I didn't go where everyone else went. I went to like an old black and white singing in the rain.
Barbershop
To the
quartet.
pure,
Do you know what I
all
mean?
things
Yeah.
are pure.
That's what I went to. I was like,
what
he's doing like
I thought you were going to do like a...
That's where I was then. That's where I was, but it was everybody else who got
it
the
was
wrong
really
end
funny.
of it.
If you're thinking what on earth is going on, go to our Instagram page because the post from Stourbridge, the first photo, because someone caught it. Someone caught it. Is Paul just swung
Swinging
around
round
this
the pole. Oh,
post?
there we go.
Oh dear.
Who was
Terrible.
the photographer that day?
There was a couple. I don't know
Wow,
who took them. There was about
thank
4
God
photographers
They
that
were
day.
on
So.
it.
Yeah.
Oh, Paul,
Oh.
you spoke so
Yeah, it was
brilliantly.
really
It was so
bless you.
wonderful to
It
hear
was
you
just a
speak.
joy, wasn't it?
It was
Just
great,
Oh,
a
wasn't
it
joy.
was great.
The whole thing's a joy.
It was great.
Yeah.
And then the
Right.
Sunday after, we've had 2 new people
Yeah.
come
Oh,
to Stourbridge.
great.
That's
Yeah.
wonderful.
Tremendous.
Right.
isn't it?
Come on.
Yeah, we're
Yeah.
loving it. Our
Great.
Sundays are very different now.
Yeah. Wow. Everyone have a good New Year's?
We had too much turkey.
Yeah. What did everyone have for Christmas?
Paul's playing along
I'm
with
hoping
you.
for a new bag on it. Some new trainers.
There you go.
Santa's coming.
Right, come on then.
Yeah.
Let's get
Yeah,
into
do you want to
it.
get us back into it?
No,
No,
you
do you want me to
go.
get us back into it? So we left off. Let's get the laugh out.
Get the laughs out. Get the laughs out.
So we left off really heavy episode, and
Not off.
obviously it was. We're really thankful, Gail, that you shared with us. And we left off at the school, like the craziness of you being told if you stay with Paul that you won't be head girl. That's crazy.
Wild.
We wanted to step into now. There's a couple of things we want to bring out in this episode. So we're coming out of the saying yes to Jesus moments in your life, or if conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And we're stepping into marriage now, and we want to get into talking about Calvary or Calvary Arise,
Sure.
as you like to call it. But talk to us, unpack to us about getting from the school and meeting to getting married.
Great.
I think for me, it's always been very simple and straightforward. I think from an early age, I was kind of taught, we say, you just got to trust in the Lord and leave it to Him type of thing. Just pray over it and He'll direct your paths. That's an abbreviated version of Proverbs. But what actually happened with me in particular, I prayed over career, prayed over Gail, at the time in those early days, then prayed about marriage in days to come. I wouldn't say, and I think this will help some, it wasn't great intense times of prayer. It was, Lord, what do you want me to do? Have your way. You direct my paths. I'd rather have you direct my paths. So we courted for years, and it was great. And then I eventually, although Gail disputes this, and there's a big story about it, I eventually popped a question to her, and she responded in the affirmative. and we had a great wedding at what is now Dudley Christian Fellowship. We were the first people married in the new building, and it was super. By which time, my dad had moved to that church, and we were running the youth.
Oh, wow.
Or we'd started the youth. And so we started the youth, and it grew and grew. And we ran the youth for about 9 or 10 years.
Oh, wow. Together?
Yes.
Isn't it together?
Yeah. Did it together.
There were two people to start with, and us. Two people and us.
And that was it.
And that was the youth.
That was
really
it.
full on
Yes,
for them.
yes. Yes,
And
two people
it
and
was
us.
a real great.
And by the time we left, 10 years later?
Yeah, there's
10
about
years
60.
later, there's 60 or 70 years.
Yeah.
Oh, yay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's brilliant.
And yeah, some people you'd know, but we see them from time to time. So it was super.
Yeah.
But that was where we're at, wasn't it? With and I think by then we'd got married. Adam had come along in 1978. He was our firstborn son. And then in 1981, Matthew came along as well. And really, that's a big part of our story.
Yeah.
But when Matthew came along, we'd actually moved into this area.
Okay.
So this...
we moved when I was 8 months pregnant with Matthew.
Oh, do you know what? We did that. We moved house when I was 8 months
It's
pregnant.
not good, is it?
It's not good.
But it is, because
It's
you don't do the
stressful.
work, you tell everybody else what to do.
I'd rather be doing it, Gail, 'cause it
I didn't,
stresses
I
me
wanted
out.
somebody else to do it for me.
So, but the great thing is, I think even then, he orders our steps. And we'd come down to King's Wimford from living in Dudley, basically to get a better school.
Okay.
Better schools, you know. And that was the one thing. Nicer house, better school. And it was amazing, really, because we arrived in 1981. By about 1982, early 1983, we were running the youth, and on a Friday night, I remember this vividly, because we drive in. I'd been to work. I was working for an insurance company. Great job. And on the Friday night, I'm driving. Gail and I are driving up to Dudley from King's Wimford. And that was the moment when the Lord spoke to me very specifically about this area that we're in now. And he said, as I'm driving past the shops where the backyard cafe is, turning the corner into Stallings Lane, and literally it was as though the Lord in my spirit said to me, why are you driving away from the area that I've put you in?
Wow.
So it was a question,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
So it was a question that prompted a response from me that was like, that formulated this vision for a church in the area that Gail was right into and behind right from the start. But the challenge was a group of kids outside the off license, as in that row of shops. And they were there, and it was almost as though you're going off to another lot of kids, you know, teenagers and great youth group. But what about this lot? You know, and that was the first thing that happened, wasn't it?
Yeah. But at the same time, for me, I was saying to God, and you have to be very careful what you say to God, because he will take you up on it. I can remember roughly the same time saying to God, I really want my friends and my neighbours and the people that I live by to come to know you. Then I added, anything I have, you can use. Be very careful, because I always wonder whether that was part of our story that comes to play. Because that was in the May 83. That was May 83. And then a few months later, Matthew, who at that age was circa 20 months old, started to not be well. And they couldn't find anything wrong with him. Doctors couldn't find anything wrong. Consultants couldn't find anything wrong with him. But I knew there was something seriously wrong with him. And eventually they came up with the idea that Matthew had got Still's disease, which is a childhood rheumatoid arthritis. And there's nothing you can do, it's life. Just carry on with your life. We were due to go to France on holiday, and we said, do we still go? Yeah, you've just got to live life. Well, that holiday was horrendous, and we had to come home early. He was admitted straight to hospital, and we got Adam as well, who was 3 years older than Matthew, so Adam was 4.5. So Paul was with Adam. I was with Matthew in the hospital in Wordsley?
Yeah, initially.
Initially in Wordsley. When it was a hospital, when there was a hospital there.
Yeah.
And he was really ill. And the matron at the time was telling me off for being a fussy mother.
Oh, gosh. And
she said he's dehydrated and he's got gastroenteritis. I said, he's got more than that. He's got more than that. And very naughty of me, but a very desperate mother. I saw the consultant walk past the room. I chased him. I'd have been in prison now. I got him by the tie and dragged him into the room where Matthew was and said, look at my child, he's ill. He took one look at him, took him in his arms and took him down to haematology himself and did the blood test himself. Came back and he said, I don't want you going anywhere, your child is very ill. I said, I know, I've been screaming this for hours upon hours. Cutting a long story short, he called me into the parents' room, and on my own, he told me, your child is desperately ill. We hope he has leukemia, because if there's anything else, he's got 24 hours to live. You've got to be transferred to the Birmingham Children's Hospital immediately. And I said, I'm going, but I'm not going without my husband. We're going to wait. And so Paul followed the ambulance, and we were blue lighted across to the Children's Hospital. We arrived there, and they asked us if we wanted a priest, because I wanted to give him his last rites. No. But he had to have a bone marrow test taken out of his hip, I think, at the time. And they couldn't give him any anaesthetic. They had to do it immediately. And I couldn't hold him for that. Paul had to hold, screaming, child, to go through the bone marrow test without any anaesthetic. But it took 2 weeks for them to actually diagnose leukemia. And the day the results were coming through was the day that Adam was due to start school for the first time. I had to choose which child I was with for both major events.
Yeah.
So Paul was with Matthew at the hospital, stayed with him overnight, and I took Adam to school. And I didn't want him to have the results on his own. And the Lord was gracious, and we didn't get the results until I got there.
Oh, wow.
They came through, and then I was able to get back to Adam and pick him up from school on that day. Thereafter, friends helped me out with school runs for Adam and whatnot. But traumatic time, that diagnosis.
Oh, it was. And I think to add my side to it, I can always recall the Birmingham Children's Hospital at the time was at Five Ways in Birmingham. And I can always remember when they said, well, he's definitely got leukemia. And, this is the process we're going to go through. And so it's around about midnight. And I've got to get back. The parents are looking after Adam and all of this kind of thing. I've got to get back. So I leave Matthew and Gail at the Children's Hospital, go to my car, and this is where you kind of, I think the Lord is very gracious, because you can kind of just share your heart, really. And prayer is a sharing of your heart, isn't it? And so I can recall vividly, like going, Lord, what's going on? You know, my child's sick. We've got this vision that is in the back of our mind. What's going on? And almost getting into a state of desperation. So it's a desperation prayer. Lord, what on earth is going on? I don't know how to pray. I don't know what to pray for. I just want him to get well. I get in the car, and I'm actually saying, Lord, where are you? Yeah. Where are you? So I'm sat in the car, driving off the multi-storey car park, getting onto the Hagley Road, saying, Lord, where are you? And this is just an amazing tale then. So I'm driving along the Hagley Road, and within 2 miles, it was as though an angel came and sat in the car by me. It was like, because the peace of God came all over me. And that was the only way I could describe it, like an angel coming and sitting beside you in the car. And so then I'll start singing worship songs. Wow. On the way home, as though the Lord sat by me, or an angel sat by me. It's the presence of God in the car, and I'm worshipping. Get home, get Adam, and that night, I slept all night, and throughout the whole traumatic period, Gail and I never lost a moment's sleep. The peace of God descended into the car and never left, you know. No answers, no immediate healing, nothing to console you with other than the very presence of God. And that for me was a big deal, wasn't it?
That vision then, excuse me, of starting the church just went into the background. Because when your child's going through chemotherapy, radiotherapy, trying to get about 20 tablets into a 2-year-old was quite a trauma in itself. Because there was no liquid and there was no Hickman line at those times. So he couldn't have direct chemo. It was all really all oral, apart from bone marrow stuff, injections he had to have, intrathecal. And it was time of trauma of going to hospitals. Christmas Eve 1984 was spent in 4 hospitals, with Adam coming along as well, because he didn't want to leave his brother on Christmas Eve. So it was Birmingham Children's Hospital for blood tests, the QE for radiotherapy, back to the Children's Hospital for chemotherapy, and then home. We got home, and he fell off the bottom step of our stairs and broke his leg.
Oh my God.
So we then had to go to Russell's Hall Hospital on Christmas Eve night and have him put in a plaster cast. We got home for midnight, so Santa still came and bought him a set of drums. But that was Christmas Eve I'll never forget.
Yeah, I bet. So where were so this was happening with Matthew, just had the diagnosis. What's happening with church? Are you still leading youth?
Yes.
You've still got your jobs, like you had careers?
I'd finished teaching, so I went into teaching. As my career, I went to Dudley Teachers Training College. Went into teaching, but when I had Adam, I came out of it, had Matthew came out of it. Then I was applying for a lecturer's post at Dudley Technical College, and I got the position, ready to start in September. But I had to let that job go because Matthew was diagnosed at the same time.
Oh, wow.
So my career went.
Yeah. And so, Paul, you were still...
I was still in financial services. And I suppose in one sense, I was selling to professionals like solicitors, accountants, brokers, all those type of people. And the Lord equally provided business, actually. In an incredible way, business flowed in without me doing a lot, because we were at the hospital a lot of the time. And so even then, the Lord was meeting the need, as it were, with my business. But thankfully.
After 40, so he was put on maintenance chemotherapy. After
In the
initial,
hospital?
No, home. It was all home, but we had to go in days for bone marrow tests and lumbar punctures and all sorts of things like that. So we were into that and thought it was working, but 14 months into a 2-year program, he relapsed.
Yeah.
Now, relapsing whilst on chemotherapy is not good.
No.
And we were told then that his chances of a bone marrow transplant had gone because he got to have more radiotherapy to get him into remission.
Right. Yeah.
So we knew we had one final chance at chemo. And so we went through it all again. But we knew what we were going through, which was worse. Because you don't know what you're going through first time.
Yeah.
The second time you know what's ahead of you. And it's worse. But it was round about, so we come to Mayish time, don't we? May 85, where this thought of starting the church never went away. If it's of God, and you want time to think about it, it will never go away.
Yeah.
If it's of God, it will get stronger. So regardless of our circumstances with Matthew, it was getting stronger.
Wow.
So we decided we've got to do something about this regardless of what Matthew's like.
Wow, gosh.
So we took this on board.
All of this time, we'd got people praying with us. Not just our church, but lots of churches, lots of people who we knew who were Christians were praying for us. And we hit a juncture where the medical basically said, we're sorry, but all we can do is do like maintenance.
This was July 85.
Yeah.
And how old was Matthew now?
Matthew was, he would have been he was 3.5.
Okay. Yeah.
3.5.
So it was one of those situations. All we can basically do for you is keep him going, you know.
So we made the choice to not have any more chemotherapy for him.
Yeah.
Because the chemotherapy was making him ill.
Yeah.
And if it wasn't working anyway, what is the point? So we said to the medics, we are taking him off chemotherapy. That's a major thing. For you to decide yourself, let alone decide for your child.
Huge.
We're taking him off chemotherapy, and we are going to believe God for a miracle. Now, I'm going back to this praying specific about God, praying specific prayers. I asked God to make me a witness to my friends and neighbours, and he did. We got known on this estate, these 2 estates, as the family who's got the little boy with leukemia. That's how it started. And then I can remember saying to God, oh God, will you give me a normal 4-year-old who has hair, who can play, and who can have a normal life as a 4-year-old would? He gave me exactly that. Because when we went back in the September, this was July we'd been told, when we went back in the September, we were told there was no signs of any cancer in his body at all. It had gone.
Yeah. It was seen as, from a medical standpoint, it was seen as a natural remission.
That's how they classed it.
Yeah. And so, but there was no rhyme nor reason as to why it had gone. So they were basically saying, and we was basically saying, well, we've prayed about this, and it's gone. Yeah. It's gone. Disappeared, didn't it?
Now, at the same time as this, we were arranging to hire the school.
Yeah. To start
the church.
Yeah.
Because we haven't got this building.
Yeah.
To start the church. And we started the church in the
October
Yeah.
85.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the first week, we also had the children's work
Yeah.
at the same time. And your husband was Matthew's best friend.
Yeah. Mm.
And Matthew brought him
Did
to that
he?
first
Yeah.
Sunday school.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
It's called Breakaway.
Yeah, he brought him to the first Sunday school.
Wow.
And so Pastor Andy was sat as a little lad
On the
on
front,
the front
row,
row.
next to Matthew.
on the first day.
Wow.
Yeah.
Next to
Fantastic,
Oh,
really.
yeah, that is incredible.
How
Because
he-
Andy
how-
and his parents weren't Christians then.
No.
And
But
so
then they
Matthew.
came in, you see. So,
Amazing.
Well,
we
John came in
started-
first.
Yeah.
John
Andy's
and
dad.
his dad
yeah.
came into church first
Yeah.
for the first few weeks or so. And then Margaret came in and his nan came in.
Mm.
Yeah.
So
Oh.
it's right the early days.
Wow.
Andy, Pastor Andy, we have got a special link with him because
Yeah.
of Matthew.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
of Matthew. So we were then known on the two estates as the family, not only the family who's got the little boy with leukemia, but they've also started this crazy church. What are
must be
they
mad.
about? They must
They
be
must
mad.
be.
So a few people started to trickle in because they thought, who's this crazy
Yeah.
Yeah.
family?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Paul, you still got your job at this point?
Yeah, I was.
Oh, my
so,
life.
So I was. By which time
How is
Ah.
this
I'm
happening?
managing a team.
Wow,
you know,
really?
So I'm managing a team, and for 9 years I did the two jobs.
That's
Yeah.
crazy,
running
isn't
the
it?
church and managing a team.
Yeah.
But it worked, and
Yeah.
the Lord blessed, didn't He?
Yeah.
But 12 months later, so we come to September, Matthew's due to start school,
Hmm.
Blandfordmere, with Adam.
So he's 4.5 now.
Yes.
Yeah.
4.5, nearly 5.
Yeah.
And he didn't seem 100% that last week at home before the school started. But I was just putting it down to general, concern about starting school. But it wasn't. He made 2 days at school, and I had to fetch him home. And I knew the leukemia was back. Nobody had to tell me. We had one final weekend before going to the hospital. We went to the hospital. Dates again, Josh. On the 8th of September. 8th of September 1986. And we were told on that day the leukemia was back. Exactly 3 years to the date that we were told in the first place.
Wow.
And we were told it was back and that he would got 3 months to live.
Oh, gosh.
We went home from the hospital. I went to my parents to tell my parents. Paul went to his parents to tell them. And we came home and we prayed that if the Lord wasn't going to heal him, he would take him very quickly. Because we had seen children die of cancer and it was not good. It was painful both for the children and for the parents. So we asked God to take him very, very quickly if he was going to. And he actually only lived 8 days from then.
Oh, gosh, really?
Yeah.
8 days.
Passed away on the 16th.
Yeah.
didn't he?
We both decided we wanted to have our last days with Matthew at home in the environment that he loved and he knew. And we were supported by the hospital.
Yeah.
But it was not easy.
Yeah.
He was going down hourly. You could see him declining. And I ever remember the last day. We slept downstairs with him overnight. And he'd gone into a coma. Doctor came to see us in the morning, 7 o'clock before surgery. It's not the same GP that we've got now. Different surgery and again, a different era. And the doctor asked us if we wanted to help Matthew die. We are in the process now of assisted dying, aren't we? Well, we got that question asked us 38 years ago. But for our child, not for ourselves. And we couldn't make that decision. Come back later after surgery and we'll let you know what we've decided. But by that time, Matthew was going down. He was actually dying from a brain hemorrhage. He got blood streaming from every orifice in his head. And he was out of pain. But God knew that we needed to know that he was okay for the rest of his life.
It's worthwhile saying at this point, we'd had a pretty awful night, one of the worst nights you could have, if you can imagine. And on the morning after the doctor had been, there was like a break in the spiritual atmosphere that went from very dark to very light. And the peace of God came once again towards us to such a degree that Matthew's passing away, but you went and had a shower, didn't you? You just went up and had a shower. I went into the back room, played some games with Adam, and then it was as though there was a the sense of God was there, even in his
and there were friends,
loss, wasn't there?
And his mum was at work.
Yeah.
But there were other friends that I asked who had helped me all the way through this journey.
Yeah.
Do you want to come and say goodbye to Matthew because he's going? Some came, some didn't. But there were about 3 or 4 ladies who came in, 2 of whom weren't Christians. The Christians who walked in just had to take a breath because they felt the presence of God. It wasn't just sadness and grief. They felt heaven in our lounge. The 2 ladies who didn't know Jesus came in and actually one of them swore and said, "What's going on here? I can't believe what I'm feeling." They sensed the presence of God.
Wow.
And they said their goodbyes to him. And then God knew that I needed to live the rest of my life knowing that Matthew was okay. So, for example, with your children, they want to go and have even a sleepover or even a party. You need to know, A, they want to go, B, they're not being coerced, and C, they're safe. Then you'll let them go. But I needed that for the rest of my life, not just for an overnight. And God needed to know that. Matthew came out of his coma. Now, he'd had a stroke hours before, so taken one side of him.
Yeah.
When he came out of the coma, there was no signs of the stroke. He smiled at me, a normal smile. He was beyond speech, so he couldn't say anything. But he looked at his dad, his hero. He turned and looked at his dad, smiled at him, smiled at my parents who were there, smiled at me, and then he looked to the corner of the room where there was no one that we could see, but he could see, and he beamed. He didn't just smile, he beamed. Now, 3 weeks before, he had been talking about Jesus being his best friend.
Yeah.
Now, he'd been brought up in church, so he knew the stories of Jesus and the name was familiar to him. But he said to me, "Mummy, Jesus is my best friend." And I said, "I know Matthew, I know he is." "No, you don't. Because when I wake up in the middle of the night, I don't come to you because he's with me. And he's with me when I go to sleep and you've gone downstairs. He's my best friend. He really is, Mummy." And so it was weeks later that I recognised who he was seeing in the corner of the room. He was seeing his best friend who had come for him to take him to eternity's party. And so I could let him go. And I live with that I had the privilege of seeing Matthew not go from life to death, but from death to life, because he was more alive in the point of his death and his last breath than he ever was in reality. And that, to me, absolutely proved, and I didn't need it, but it kind of like sealed the deal on the reality of eternity. Because my child didn't go to nothingness, he didn't go to nobody, he went to somebody, and somebody came for him and took him to be with him, as the scripture says, as it says in the Bible. And we lived the reality of that. And a 4-year-old child can't make things up like that.
No.
So we have been able to hold on to that all these years, that we know where he's gone and who he's with.
And we've always felt that his last 12 months were a gift from God, you say. Because there was no rhyme or reason as to why he should be around. You know, he shouldn't have been around for that. And it was a gift from God, and he came. And that was a blessing. But we'd started the church, you see, and so people were walking the steps with you, really. And you know, so by the time he'd passed away, a lot of people basically felt, oh, the church will just disappear now. And because it didn't.
And they had to come in to see who this crazy couple were. And they came in because they saw the journey we'd been on. This is people who didn't come to the church, you know, people who lived around. And they wanted to see what it's all about. There's got to be something to this. If they have gone through this and are still doing it. So they came in, and they came in. And so that Matthew is very much part of the birth of Calvary Arise.
Wow.
Gosh, you're so inspirational, honestly. Like, how did you, you know, just knowing from pastoring, like, how did you still lead people even though this was going on? Do you feel like people chilled out a bit and, you know, didn't expect you to? Like, how were you getting up and preaching? Do you know what I mean?
I think people came and rallied around.
Yeah.
So there was some great people in the church in those days, you know. But there was some great support in every sense.
Pam Thornycroft in particular,
you know,
was a
would
massive
support.
And Mark Aston.
Yeah.
And his mum.
And then, of course, there were others. There was Kevin Andrea Roberts who were around at that time. And they took a lot of the weight off us all the time. A lot of credit got to go to them. But I think they walked it with you, so they wanted to help, and they were committed to the vision.
And very practical things they did for us.
Like, were you still preaching?
I think I was from... not in the
I wasn't
immediate...
preaching at that stage.
Not in the immediate couple of weeks afterwards. But, you know, my father was in the church, you see, at that time.
Oh, so he joined as well?
So he'd come and joined the church. So he was around for about 4 or 5 years at the start of the church. So he was my go-to, you see. So it's a case of, Sunday's coming. Dad, quick.
Yeah.
You better preach.
Adam was only 7 at this stage. And the impact it had upon him was phenomenal, really. Because he'd gone round to Pam Thornycroft's house when we knew Matthew was actually dying. We knew too soon because we didn't know how it would be. And then Paul went round and brought him back, and Paul had to tell Adam that his brother had died. And my dad wanted to lay out his grandson. He didn't want anybody else to do it. He was an old-fashioned type of guy, and he washed him, and he dressed him, and he put him right. He laid him out. I don't know how he did that now as a grandparents, but he did. But when Adam came back, we said to Adam, and it's a big decision to make for a 7-year-old, but you've got hours to make the decision. You can't change your mind. Do you want to say goodbye and see your brother? And he said yes. So we took him into the room where Matthew was. And I said, you can kiss him, you can touch him, say anything you want. It's your last chance. You won't see him again until heaven. And he looked at him and he said, Mommy, the 7-year-old, Mummy, no, I don't need to, because that's not my Matty. Called him Matty. He's gone. This is just like an eggshell when you've eaten the egg. It's the shell. He's gone. And that stayed with Adam. And I think the reality of a 7-year-old seeing death, we shy away from it in our culture because we're frightened it'll damage them, and for some children it could do. But we had to make that decision for Adam. And we are convinced that's why he went into the caring profession, because he wanted to make a difference. And he wanted to help people.
Physio now, isn't he?
He's a physio, yeah.
Wow.
And he actually set up the physio department in Mary Stephen's Hospice to help people in their last hours. And he offered to do that. And he set that up and was working there for about 5 years.
Wow. Gosh.
So he went through it, and I think it moulded his character to be the gentle giant that he is.
Gail, do you want to share about your book at this point as well? You know, talking about being a witness.
It would be about 20 years later when I had the opportunity to connect with a publishing house via another lady, and they came actually into this building to interview me to see if I was prepared to write Matthew's story. And I was, but I wanted to try and write it myself. They offered me a ghostwriter, but I said, can I try myself? Yes, and they gave me several months. They wanted a skeleton of the outline of the book, and then they wanted me to write one complete chapter. Now, logically, you'd think I would do the first chapter. No, because I knew that wasn't the most difficult. The most difficult chapter to write was the day that Matthew died, like what we spoke about earlier. And I knew if I could put that into print, if I could write that, I could write anything. So I did. I sent it off, and they said, "No, it's fantastic. You write it yourself. You don't need a ghostwriter." So I'd never done any journalism before. I mean, I was a primary school teacher, but I'd never done any journalism before. And I wrote the book at the same time as doing my credentials for AOG.
Oh gosh, really?
The two together. And
it's never easy, is it? For you two?
And pastoring the church at the same time. So I was part-time pastor. And I wrote my book, and I did my AOG status at the same time.
Oh, goodness me.
Ministers in Training, they call it now.
And the book is called?
And the book is called...
Yes, we will put a link.
Harvest from Heartache by Gail Chamberlain. And the easiest place to get it, is on Amazon. It will be a second-hand copy, but it's still available. I may have signed the copy to somebody else, but the story's still the same.
We'll pop that link in the description.
We'll put that link.
Wow.
Good.
Wow.
I've never seen you two at a loss for words.
I know.
Actually, in real life, shall we? Sometimes I don't. We
are.
I was feeling the same then when we chatted to Alana.
Yeah.
Oh right. Yes.
Because she likened it to what you were saying about how she mentioned about how church rallied around and. Like Alana's story is very real to us now because we lived it. Like I wasn't around for this time. So to hear it from you guys is so powerful, and then to see the likeness of like how church got round you when you were planting a church, it's just bonkers. And for people listening, like who call Arise home, like. This is the legacy of these two people sat right in front of us, here, because the reason why you call Arise home is because they started Calvary Church back in the day, and we're really thankful for that, aren't we? We're thankful for that you stepped out in such a crazy period of life.
And then we have to say that, of course, in 2016, we handed over the church to Pastor Andy and Pastor Sarah. Which is very strange because Pastor Andy was there at the beginning.
Matthew's best friend.
Matthew's best friend.
Would they play with each other?
Oh yes.
Did they?
Oh yes, every day.
Oh.
And, excuse me, Andy would stand at the top of his drive And at the top of his voice, he would shout, and I'm moving the mic away, Matthew! And he'd keep on calling Matthew until I took him over.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I wonder how Andy felt during this time.
It must have been really challenging for him.
Because they're little as well, aren't they?
I remember what he did because I fundraised for the hospital, and Andy did a sponsored swim.
Yes.
Now, he could only swim before Matthew died, I think, a width.
Oh.
Now, off the top of my head, and Andy will correct this, he swam about 15 lengths. Because it was for Matthew.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, that's sweet.
Quite amazing.
Yeah.
Wow. But in all of these things, you like reflect on it, and it was like when we finished and retired back in 2016, and all this kind of stuff comes out. You turn and you say, Lord, all the glory has to go to you.
Yeah.
It's very much orchestrated, and it's amazing how the Lord orchestrates stuff from heaven. So even out of sadness comes great joy. And people have said to us over the years, we don't know how you coped, we don't know how you got together. And all you can basically say, well, it's down to our trust in the Lord, our faith. And you can't even boast about that, the scripture says, because it's gifted to you, So the glory always has to end up with the Lord. And you end up worshipping and saying, thank you, Lord, you know what you're doing. Even though I don't know what's going on. And it might be for somebody that's going through a trauma of any type at the moment. You're like going at the moment, why am I going through this? What's all this about? And the focus then comes back. You put your trust in the Lord, leave it with him, walk with him, get close to him, stay in church all the time, never think of missing a service. In fact, run to services is the answer, and get close to the Lord, and
so
that
good.
will always come good.
And I go back
that's
to
great.
that if prayer that I said, if this is true, then I'm in, and I'm in for life.
Yeah.
Still there now.
Yeah.
Today. Still there. 50.
There's a heck of a lot of other stories that could come out.
I feel like we could have done 3 parts.
Part 3, yeah.
You know what I mean? There's a whole gap in between now to Calvary, like all it is. Wow, that's a beautiful place to end, though.
Thank you.
I think a lot of people will be wondering, like, so when you retire as a pastor, what happens?
What happened? Everything.
And we chatted in between episodes recording about how, like, actually this story now is a great what after pastoring has become. Like, I know my mum and dad have sat with you and heard this story in your caravans.
Yes.
They love a caravan, these lot. So I like just we've got a couple of minutes. Like, what has, like, retirement then looked like in a snapshot?
I think for me, pastoring was always Paul's primary gift. It wasn't my primary gift, it was Paul's primary gift. And I supported him for 40 years, maybe, if you include the youth pastoring. And when we retired, it's as though the roles switched, and he's come into my primary gifting now, which is one-to-one talking. One-to-one evangelism. I don't mean to be evangelistic. I probably shouldn't say that, should I? But it's kind of like, it's
Just
who
happens.
I am. It just happens in conversation. So if people ask, what did you do as a job? Or how many children have you got? That opens up my story, and it's just natural. So
I support Gail. I do several other things.
yes,
So
he's got
one or two other things. So I do a couple of charities that I chair and preach from time to time. Do this from time to time, but that to me is to be able to sit with people and just share the goodness of God. it's a big deal, like, really.
One couple, even this summer, hadn't heard my story and were just asking in conversation. We were having some Prosecco in an afternoon on the caravan park.
You heard this story.
Wonderful time. And they started to ask us, told them the story, and it was mind-blowing for them.
Yeah.
They came back the next day, and he said, thank you for sharing your life story. I feel very privileged to have heard it.
Yeah. And
she said, but I think there's a part 2 coming, isn't there? There's another part to this story as well, and I want to hear it. Yeah. And then she found the book and got the book and read the
Wow.
book. That's just one story.
Yeah. Brilliant.
Yeah. I mean, I think there could have been 3, 4, 5.
Yeah.
So, thank you guys for coming on. I feel very privileged to have had you guys on and to have chatted. What a great couple of episodes.
Yeah.
That was
absolutely wonderful.
Yeah, thank you guys for coming on. We obviously...
We need to do our tradition again.
Is to take another selfie.
Selfie.
Do you want to take this one? Do you want to take this one? Yeah. I was thinking, like, you go there and take it from that angle, so it's just a bit different.
So he doesn't have to get out of his seat.
No, I'm going to get out. I'm going to go in between.
Oh, that'll do. That's good, isn't it?
I've got to do landscape. No, that works. Oh, sorry.
You need it for the thumbnail.
Oh, right.
You've got to go outside to press.
Wait. There you go. All very clever.
No, I'm going to do 3 more. Okay.
That's
good.
so good.
My personal collection.
That's so good. That is so good.
Yeah. Chasing up there. Thank you guys for coming on and spending a couple of hours with us. Thank you guys for listening and watching. You can find us on YouTube, Spotify, Amazon Music and Apple Music. You can find us everywhere. Anywhere you listen and watch podcasts, you can find us. But thank you guys for coming on. Thanks. Enjoyed it.
Oh, it's been wonderful.
It's been great.
Love it.
And we'll see you next month.
See ya.
Bye. Happy New Year.
Bye.